It's my first one.
Me too.
Okay, so here we go, everybody. Yay! And we're here live today. How are you, Vanessa?
I'm well, Ed, and you?
I'm good. I'm excited because this is the first time, by the way, full transparency, that I use this service called StreamYard. If you are a YouTuber or you like to go live, period, let me tell you something. They don't pay me to say this, but StreamYard's the way to go. I had a total fiasco happen to me before where I couldn't get in my speakers when I went Facebook Live direct. And so this allows
Oh,
us a lot more control. Plus, look at these cool little banners, huh?
I like that. I like that a
Isn't that
lot.
cool? Very, very good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Excited. We had a few open houses over the weekend,
Okay.
and we're hearing the same thing over and over. People are just getting outbidded right now with and overwhelmed
Yeah.
with the number of offers.
No, that is true. It's still an absolute crazy market. So for those of you who've been telling me that this is a bubble and it's going to go away and prices are going to go down 20%, uh, you're going to be waiting the rest of your life, because the reality is that we've had an inventory shortage since, I think, before I got into the business, which is over 21 years now. We're going to continue to have an inventory shortage. It's going to continue to be very, very competitive out there. And so this is why we're doing this today. So we're going to talk about the 3 Ps of buying a house in 2022. And oddly enough, these 3 Ps also apply just to life in general, but we're gonna talk a little bit about that here in a second. Give me a little bit of an overview of what you're seeing as far as on the real estate side. And then what I'll do is I'll talk a little bit of give a little overview on interest rates.
Yeah, so, as the pandemic is, closing down and everything is getting back to normal, we're seeing people coming back to the workforce. I did an open house in San Bruno, and what I was trying to tell everybody that was there, some of the people that actually did come are coming in from major corporations, major
Mhm.
companies that are saying that they're going to be back in the office by April 1st for good. And so
Oh,
now
wow.
they're looking for a place, for a place to stay.
Makes sense.
So we're going to see a large volume of buyers, up until the summer, because people are going to be moving their families back to the Bay Area. And what we're seeing right now is, prices are increasing. But what's
Yeah, they
shocking
continue.
is that those homes are appraising at ridiculous numbers.
I know, I was talking to a friend of mine who moved out, thinking, hey, it's a lot cheaper, right? I'm just going to leave California. And now they're having regrets. They are. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying everybody is, but they are, because the cockroaches are bigger than they thought. There's more humidity than they thought. All these things that they didn't really realize until they landed and lived there for a while. But here's the problem: is that when they come back, guess what happens? They're priced out,
Oh yeah,
right? So a lot of
that's
people
what we're
can't even come
seeing.
back, right? Because yes, they sold their house with a windfall, but you got to buy. And that
Gotta
same
buy
house that you
now.
sold for 750 that you got a windfall on, now it's a million, right? So you're
And
priced
rent,
out,
you're priced
and
out.
rents
And
too.
rent is just as competitive. So
Yeah,
purchasing is the way to go. And I had people yesterday at the open house tell me that, they wish they took advantage of the 3%
yeah,
interest rates that was there. But I told them, we are still at a great rate.
yes.
So try to take advantage of it if you can. Because if we remember, not too long ago, we were at 11%.
Absolutely. I mean, and for those of you who lived through this, in 1981, the 30-year fix peaked at 21%. This is when Paul Volcker, for those of you who remember, because he was like 7 foot tall, he was huge physically. He, in order to control once again inflation, had to raise rates, because inflation's the enemy of rates. And so the way you put the brakes on inflation is you raise rates, and he did. They went up all the way to 21%. And then guess what? They
Oh,
came back down to 11% once and by the way, 11% was considered a bargain back then, right? But once
yes,
inflation was tamed, then interest rates went back down, which is what's going to happen to us. Now, the one thing that we don't know, we don't have the answer to, crystal ball here, is we don't know when that's going to happen, right? So rates will continue to go up, and we know that the Fed is going to raise rates at, I would say, probably at least 3 times in this
oh
year,
yeah,
starting right now in March, as far as the federal funds rate, and that affects your short-term rates, things like credit cards and home equity lines of credit. So it's a great time to really go back and reassess. I know we've all been reassessing in the last 2-3 years. With the pandemic, our lives, there was this huge amount of 4.5 million people, the great resignation, that left their jobs and they're reassessing their whole lives. We all are, right?
yes,
But it's a great time to just kind of look at, what are your goals? What's the price of your goals? Because remember, for every goal that you want to achieve, there's a price for it and there's some sacrifice. Life isn't so linear or
definitely.
binary, right? It's not so, one to one. It's not that easy. But if you're really committed to it, then you're going to make it happen. I've always said this: the only person that I can't help is the one that where I want it more than they do. You have to want it, and so that's
Yes,
a good
yes,
segue into, we're talking about the 3 Ps. Now, let me give you just a quick little summary on interest rates. You're right, Vanessa. Rates are still below pre-pandemic. Pre-pandemic, we're at about 4.25 when it comes to a conventional loan. Right now, we're at about 4, right? Depending on the day, because remember, rates go up and down. What is it based on?
mm-hmm,
It's really based on the bonds, right? If you look at the 10-year Treasury, for example, today it was at 1.78. At one point here, we were a little bit over 2%. We were freaking out, right? All of us.
yeah,
But now it's come back down because we all know what's going on with the war. And, the planet Earth is still unsettled. We still have not come out completely out of the pandemic, even though the numbers look great and we can unmask. But, look, life is fragile. If anything we've learned is that life is very fragile and things can change just
in a
like that.
heartbeat,
So it's important
definitely.
that we're prepared. So let's talk about the 3 Ps. The first, you want to be prepared. Now, what does that mean? When you start looking for a house, what's really the first step you need to be doing? You need to get pre approved. Now, in a later video, I'm going to talk about the difference between pre approval and pre qualification. But for the sake of simplicity right now, let's just assume that you got fully pre approved. What does that mean? So, when you go and you submit an application, what happens, right? Most lenders are going to hyper focus on 4 areas of your finances. The first one is, I call it the acid test, by the way, ACID. So the A stands for assets. They're going to look at all the money that you have. They're going to look
Mm-hmm.
at bank accounts, right? Checking savings. They're going to look at money markets. They're going to look at if you have stock accounts, retirement accounts. Right? They're going to look at everything. They want to see how much money do you have for down payment, for closing costs, and reserves if required. It's important that you also understand, and a lot of people don't know this, that for most 401ks, you can borrow up to 50% of your vested amount, right? Without having to pay the 10% early withdrawal, right? And taxes.
True.
So the mistake is to liquidate it. You don't want to liquidate those funds. What you want to do is you want to take a loan against it because you're paying yourself back. So that's the number one benefit, is that you're paying yourself back, right? Number two is, we as lenders don't count that as a debt. Why? Because you're borrowing your own money,
Hmm.
right? And of course, the third is that you don't have to pay the early withdrawal and taxes. So that's really, really good information for you to know in case you have a 401k that's just sitting there. So that's on the assets. The C stands for what? Credit scores, right? There's 3 credit scores because there's 3 credit reporting agencies. We have Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. So you want to make sure really that you have a 740 and above is really where you want to be. Obviously, the higher, the better. But 740 and above is really kind of where you start to get really good rates. Anything below that, it starts to dwindle. Interest rates are very sensitive to credit scores. So make sure that prior to applying, that you have this conversation with your mortgage professional, me, hopefully, that we can do a strategy and make sure that those credit scores are super high. I have a place that I like to send all my clients where you can pull your credit reports. It's as close to a mortgage report as you get without it lowering your credit scores. Because by the time myself or any other mortgage person actually pulls your credit, it's going to lower your scores between 5 to 22 points, depending on how the algorithm sees you. So that's super important. The third
Great
area,
information.
which is the I, is income, right? Well, there's a difference. If you are a W 2 employee, if you're hourly, right, versus salary, do you get paid weekly? Do you get paid bi weekly? Or do you get paid monthly or twice a month? All those are different and they're treated differently when it comes to the income calculation formula. Also, if you are self employed, that changes the whole game because we have to
Oh.
do what's called a SAM analysis, which is just schedule analysis method. You're going to notice if you're self employed and you're a sole proprietor that you have a Schedule C on your tax returns. That's where the schedule part of SAM comes in, schedule analysis method. And we do a whole income calculation that we have to plug in some numbers from your tax returns into a formula, right? And then we average out the last two filed tax years to come up with an average monthly income. And that's how that works. And there's more detail to it, but I want to just give an overview, right? And then the fourth and final area, which is the D of asset, is our debts. What do we look at when we pull your credit report? What debts are we looking at? Well, we're really looking at what the minimum payment required is on the credit report. So, for example, let's say you have a $10,000 balance on a credit card and your monthly payment is 150 bucks, but you're paying 500. We don't use the 500, we use the $150 that is showing up on your credit report. So we divide all your existing debts, which you want to minimize to zero if possible, plus the new hypothetical total monthly payment, and divide that by your income. And we come up with a debt to income, or what you will hear as DTI, debt to income ratio.
Mm-hmm.
That's really important. Technically, on a conventional loan, which the loan limits did come up, that's going to be 50%. It's typically where it taps out, right? On a jumbo loan, that typically taps out at a maximum 43%. So you get about a 7% haircut on a jumbo loan because there's just more
Oh,
risk to the lender when it comes to a jumbo loan, hence the term jumbo. It's a bigger loan.
jumbo.
The more the amount, the more the risk, right? Another thing I wanted to say also when it comes to assets, that the down payment is also going to determine whether you either have to pay PMI, which is private mortgage insurance, or have to get two loans in order to avoid getting a jumbo loan because the jumbo loans are
Oh.
just more restrictive, right? So
Mm-hmm.
here in California, 970,800 dollars is the new, for one unit is the maximum loan limit, right? And the higher priced areas like San Francisco and the immediate Bay Area. Well, any loan amount greater than that is considered to be a jumbo. So in order to avoid that, typically people will get either two loans, or if they have
Mm-hmm.
the money, then they put more money down so that it doesn't go above that loan limit. But here's what you need to know, like I mentioned a second ago, is that if you're putting less than 20% down, chances are you're going to have to pay PMI, which is a private mortgage insurance. And believe me when I tell you that that's like a car payment with no car in the garage. It's expensive. So you want to
Seen that.
avoid that by either just waiting and saving more if possible, although you don't want to wait too long because prices are going up, right? Or rallying up the troops, meaning your friends and family, and getting some gift money. So that's the acid test of getting prepared. On your end, Vanessa, what does somebody need to do after they get approved to get prepared to come and see you and start the search?
Well, I always recommend, seeing the lender and having us all meet together. I truly believe in that. The communication between the buyer and the lender is vital because then we want to be relatable, we want to be real, and the person who's going to give me that information is going to be someone like you, my lender. So,
Yeah.
and then after that, we go from there. We'll know the budget. We'll know my job is to study the area for them, find them a house that's going to fit their needs and wants. But the lender's part is going to, of course, be the financing part to make sure that they're qualified, they're ready, and they're ready to be competitive in our market is most important right now.
How many times do you have to set expectations of what's realistic? Because, out here, hey, shout out to my people in the East Coast, right? My people in Tennessee, my people in Atlanta. But the reality is that our down payments a lot of times are what you pay for houses in those areas. So sometimes you have to, right, set those
Oh,
expectations and
yes.
give it a little bit of reality check. And that's tough.
That it's really tough. So right now I'm working with a buyer and they come from the East Coast right now.
Oh,
They're
okay.
moving from the East Coast to here for work. Fell in love with a Victorian home in San Francisco. Um, their lender happens to be in the East Coast. It's a family lender. And not only am I setting the expectation for the buyer, but I'm also setting the expectation for the lender. Letting them know like here's the data, here's what's selling. He's like, no, 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 but this is the list price. This is what the seller wants. And I was like, yes, I understand that. But here they price it low to hit everybody's, price point so people can see the property. And then the expectation is always higher in pricing. So,
That's
you
true.
know, that's that's one thing that we're learning right now is that people from the East Coast that where you're just I'm telling them constantly, hey, this is what's going on. So they wrote the offer and unfortunately we didn't get it, you know, highest and best because they were expecting a counter. And not everybody counters in our market because
Mm,
they don't want to counter 20 people. So you go to your highest and best and they're going to take the top three. And we were
that's so
number
true.
7.
Wow. That's so true. You don't think about that is that, typically in a market, right? You put in an offer and then if they don't like it, they counter, but they got so many offers that they don't even bother. So again,
No.
part of that preparedness is to be realistic. How much are you going to offer? And by the way, folks, whether you're doing the loan with me or not, I have a great report that will let you know how long it's going to take you to recover if you decide to bid over asking. So, for example, if you want to bid $100,000 over asking, I can create a report for you that'll tell you how long it's going to take you to recoup that 100,000 in built up equity. It's a really, really great tool because it's really a reality check. Understand that for every dream, like I said, there's a
There's a
cost and a
price.
price. So if you really want the house, know your numbers. Because the thing that I love about numbers is that they're unemotional, right?
Yes.
They're
I deal
facts.
with let me deal with the emotional part.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I'll deal with the numbers. I'll go in the left brain. You go on the right brain, for sure, for sure.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's a great point. That which leads me to the next P, by the way, which you got to be persistent. This is not a game for the faint at heart. You have to dust yourself off, get back on the horse, and let Vanessa continue to work for you until you are successful. Sometimes it takes a few offers. How many times do you think a person needs on average to submit offers these days to get an offer accepted?
In our market right now, I'm seeing at least 3. The first one is just getting your feet wet. Typically, so my past buyer in Sunnyvale, he wanted, he told me, this is what I'm qualified for, this is what I want to pay. Fine, let's do that. Fell in love with a house. We knew we could go more, but he's like, no, I want to pay this price. Okay, definitely. It's really up to you. I'm just here to guide you and give you suggestions. Next thing we know, our offer was declined, and we were number 3 on that one.
Oh wow.
So he
Okay.
was so bummed. So the
Ugh.
second one,
Close.
we're so close. So he's like, okay, we're gonna get it this time. We wrote up an offer, loved the house. He was so in love with it. And we wrote up the offer. We only went, I think, 15,000 over ask. And I was like, we're gonna have to go at least 7,500 over ask. And he's like, no, I think this is good. We got beat out. And that led us to number 8. And
Which, by the
I
way,
was like,
$7,500 on a mortgage is about a latte and a half a day, right? Difference. Just so
dude,
you
that's the
know,
difference,
that
right?
$7,500 is nothing. Do not lose a house for that, especially out in these neck of the woods.
Exactly. And so next house, I was like, and we were right. I was right. We went in, that house sold for 1,075,000. And I was like, oh, we were almost there. So third one, he's like, Vanessa, take the wheel. I just need a house. We're cutting it close. So
Wow.
we got in with a winning bid.
Okay. Nice.
It's
Yeah. So the
patience.
persistence, and by the way, that leads me to the third. There it is. It's being patient. You got to be persistent, but you also have to be patient, be realistic that it's
Yes.
going to take a little bit of time. Look, every once in a while, you hit a home run, the first shot, right? Right up
Mm-hmm.
bat, boom, it's out of the ballpark. But for the most part, I'd say prepare yourself to be very persistent and to be very patient. Just know that the right house will come around, especially when you have a great agent like Vanessa. She will find you a house. Just let her do her work, let her do what she does best, and she will find it for you. It's just a matter of time and being persistent and keep at it until you win, just like anything else. You guys all remember Thomas Edison, that guy? Remember that guy? Well, how many times did it take him to invent this light bulb thing, right? How many times did he try before he had it? 1,000. I'm not saying you're going to put in 1,000 offers, okay? The good news is that you don't have to put in 1,000 offers like Edison did, but that's what it takes. You got to be on it, right? You got to be
Yeah.
persistent. You got to be patient, and you got to be prepared. Any parting words?
None right now, just patience and grace with our market right now. And, it's it's amazing right now what we're seeing and what we're witnessing in our market right now. Numbers, prices, people.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So I say just take the time to really get to know your lender, your agent, be
Hmm.
relatable and be real.
Yeah. Be
That's
real. Exactly. And work with them as a team because you're part of the team too, as the buyer. It's not just
definitely.
them, the team, it's you. You're part of the team as well. What's your prediction between here and the end of the year? Prices still
Oh
continue to go
gosh.
up double digits, you think?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Prices
Yeah.
are still going to prices are going to soar. Right now we're in our spring market and we're
Yeah.
seeing numbers go up. And I'm seeing more off markets. Um, I'm seeing buyers purchasing off market now, getting with the right agent, getting into the right team. We're hearing more and more of it. And we're
Yeah.
seeing sellers who are just not interested going on the market
Yeah.
as much, even though they can get more money.
Interesting. Yeah. So off market, everybody, in case you don't know, is when it's not listed on the MLS, the multiple listing service. It's literally just being sold kind of privately, right? Through their network
Yes,
of agents and things. And that's, by the way, what's really important that you have an agent that's well networked and well liked because they will be called by other agents on properties that they have that they're not going to put on the MLS. They're just private listings that are out there. So make sure that your agent is very well networked and very well liked in the industry.
definitely.
So important. Yeah, I think the prices are going to continue to go up. There's no doubt about it. So the cost of waiting can be humongous. Make sure that you don't
Yes,
miss the train if your destination is homeownership. Make sure that you don't miss it because it's going to for every dollar that you don't earn as equity, it's a dollar more you're going to spend on that property in the future. That's just how it is. That's how the math
yes,
ends up. So it's very important that you make sure that you put that dollar in your pocket as opposed to in somebody else's pocket. And that's true of all your finances, right? You want to make sure that your bucket is full as opposed to everybody else's. Well, very, very good. Well, thank you again, Vanessa. This has been
thank you, Ed.
fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. We are going to be doing some more of these Facebook Live sessions. So be on the lookout for the next one. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.
Bye.